Hello, everybody. Welcome along. It's time for the Championship Check-In podcast. It's Thursday night, which means Sam Parkin is here. And it means we are going to talk about the greatest league in world football, the EFL Championship. It is yet another 3-game week. So we will focus in the main on the midweek round, number 21 in the Championship. In the first half of the show. But if you do want to mention stuff from the weekend, you can do. And the way they do that, Sam, is live via the comments. If you're watching us on YouTube, have your say. We'll put as many up as we can. And we'll go to some Q&A at the end of the show. That doesn't mean we don't appreciate, Sam, all the people that listen on audio after the fact. Tell them how much you appreciate them, Sam.
Oh, we appreciate every single download like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, completely on par with the people that are tuned in tonight. Hopefully with a little beverage and a mince pie. Gets longer and longer, doesn't it, the build up these days? I've been building up for Crimbo since about the middle of November. It's unbelievable.
This is how you get your comment read out. Look, Fev, greatest league and 2 goats to guide us through. This is my favourite though. Look at this from JC. Wayne Rooney's Blue Army has turned. Yeah. He's got the win, old Wazza. Welcome, you guys in the chat. Make yourself known. Let me just bang through the results before we go to Parkin's pick this week, because it is thick and fast on these 3-game weeks. Obviously, the Wednesday night games literally happened less than 24 hours ago, Sam. So it was Blackburn 2, Bristol City 1 on Tuesday. Huddersfield 1, Preston 3, that I predicted would be under 1.5 goals. Rotherham 0, West Brom 2. Sorry, managerless Rotherham 0. No, Liam Richardson's Rotherham 0, West Brom 2. Stoke 1, Swansea 1. Watford 1, Ipswich 2. Sam, I was at that game. Sunderland 1, Leeds 0 is a double significant result up at the top of the table. JC's already mentioned it in the chat there, Sam. Cardiff 0, Birmingham 1. Not many people called that one, did they? Coventry 1. Southampton 1. Saints unbeaten still, but dropping points. Leicester 3. Millwall 2. Leicester, win again. Norwich 3. Sheffield Wednesday 1. QPR 0. Plymouth 0. And it was Middlesbrough 1. Hull City 1. Sam, let's get it going straight away. I need to know, and get your suggestions in the chat for your favourite narrative this week. What is going to be Parkin's pick? What are we talking about to start the show, Sam?
Yeah, no standout individual teams, I don't think, this week. So we're going to have a chinwag about those 2 that are disappearing off into the sunset. Leicester City and Ipswich Town being, 11 points and 10 points, respectively, ahead of third place now.
Insanity, Sam. I remember coming up to Christmas, just as the pandemic was about to hit, I remember Leeds and West Brom being absolutely miles clear, maybe even more than Leicester and Ipswich are clear. But what is your take on this? Because we've been calling it a top 4. We're expecting it to Concertina. There you go. I'll raise your lambasted Concertina there, Sam. But just because of the sheer power of Leeds and Southampton. But this gap that we've got that exists now does make things interesting, Sam, doesn't it?
My take on it is Ipswich were our cause for concern a few weeks ago.
They won 4 in a row of the 8 for 8.
They've just absolutely made a mockery of that by dispatching some of these teams and some of these games that we were, I suppose, slightly fearful whether Ipswich could maintain their foot on the throttle, and they've done that and some. They're not through it yet. We know that. The Derby at the weekend.
Yeah.
Leeds the following game, and then Leicester on Boxing Day, the late game on Boxing Day. So they're not through it yet, but I've seen quite a lot of conversation, making national broadcasters in the last few days, and people saying, Ipswich aren't going to fall away, and that, in truth, now we're nearly halfway through the season, has got to be my sentiment. And I said it last time in the aftermath of seeing them live. One of the best teams I can remember in the Championship over the last decade or so. They're playing that well at the moment. So yeah, massive games to come. Expect them to take care of business at the weekend. I would expect the other two to win as well this weekend, and then it gets really interesting with Ipswich having to take on those two in the next couple of weeks. Leicester, I think this has been a show of strength over the last 3-4 games. You know, after that slight malaise where they were beaten at Middlesbrough, I think they had one win in 4, didn't they? And
They did, yeah.
the win prior to that run was a really unimpressive victory at QPR, Gareth Ainsworth's last game, where they got away with it a little bit. So the performances have been lacking a little bit, and Leeds haven't made any ground essentially. So I think Leeds are playing well. We can't get too despondent about that defeat at Sunderland.
41 points from 21 games is excellent. There's nothing wrong with that points total whatsoever.
I think Leeds are incredibly creative, have got the ability to absolutely dominate the ball and ruin teams in that fashion, but they're also brilliant and so entertaining on the counter-attack, you know, with a real pace and directness about them. So they can hurt you both ways. I think there's a clear, incisive plan at definitely Ipswich and Leicester, but Leeds have got, you know, different ways of beating you. So no, I'm not completely writing them off, but I just think that there are still a couple of areas at Leeds in the 11 that need strengthening, and I'm unsure of right now. And that probably has meant they've lost those 4 away games. I mean, they've lost 4 away from home. The other 2 have lost once away from home, which is just incredible going now that we're nearly at Christmas. And those away games have clearly cost Leeds. Clearly, you know, defeated 3 times by 1-0. And obviously that Southampton game that I referenced on the last podcast where they were well and truly beaten. So that is a problem because they've won 7 on the spin at Ellen Road. So if they are to fall short, it's because they've not been quite good enough away from home. And those areas, just to finish, fullback, been saying it throughout the season, they're not good enough in the fullback area.
Sam, just to chip in, Sam Byram is not going to be in the head-to-head against Ipswich. We were told 3 weeks a few days ago, so we missed that one.
Yeah, and Gray's been really good, Archie Gray. And I don't know if I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but I've got a mutual friend with Andy Gray, so I've spent time in his dad's company. And when Archie was a young lad, decked out in the replica shirts and just starting to kick a ball about. So I've always kept an eye on his career and thrilled to see him doing so well. Brilliant player. He wants to be playing in midfield, really, doesn't he? So hopefully they can reinforce both fullback positions, maybe, and possibly a bit of a different profile midfield player. I would say would probably be on the shopping list as well. I know that they've got, is it Gruev, who's been there since the summer?
Been used a lot, hasn't he?
I think he's made one start where he played 85 minutes, and then the rest of his minutes accumulate to about 10 minutes. So I think they thought he was going to come in and be that kind of different option to the ones they've got in there, Ampadu, Kamara, you know, powerful.
Like a playmaker type.
Yeah, a bit more of a playmaker. So I think that's maybe a position they'll look to strengthen. But yeah, I'm not writing them off. No, but like I've said in the last few weeks, Ben, be a massive surprise if Leicester or Ipswich don't make it now.
Wow, just amazing as an Ipswich fan, and Ipswich will be featuring in one of the remaining segments here. I said at the start of the Hateful Eight, Sam, from an Ipswich point of view, if they have any type of lead over Leeds at that point, you would take it. And now there's only 3 games remaining of this run, so that is guaranteed. Even if there's a 9-point swing in the next 3 games, which may or may not happen, we will indeed find out.
Do you want to quickly tell us about Ipswich or Watford? Was that fortuitous or?
No, but it very much had the look of a team that knows how to win, churning out wins. You know, I've said this to you several times, Sam. Even we talked about the QPR game for Ipswich. It's a coin flip at about 65 minutes, but they just know how to win at the moment, and those type of games are going in their favour. They certainly didn't need to rely on a worldie, Sam. Get your comments in now. Focus on midweek again. Who is the Worldie of the Week. Don't just vote for the team you support. Tell us your favourite goal from either this midweek or the weekend. We'll put them up. And then Mr. Parkin is going to give us his professional take. Right, we'll wait for some to come up there, Sam. Let me just bring the fixtures back up again. Now, we did have an extremely vintage week a couple ago, didn't we? So Sigurdsson, nice little take and finish there. Alan Brown, looping header. Jed Wallace, free kick in there. Janino Bakuna, lovely feet for that goal. Mavadidi and Borja Sainz for Norwich as well. Those are a few I would mention. Shall we see what the chat's saying, Sam, before you, as you always do, have the final say? Lots of love for Sainz here. A few there. Willock for QPR. Was that the week? That would have been the weekend, wouldn't it? Wallace from Callum. Norwich's first goal for Sheffield Wednesday. And before Sam speaks, you know the rules here. Norwich might be getting mentioned in a later segment as well. I think you all know where this is going. Sam, what were your favourite goals this week?
Well, someone's just reminded me about Chris Willock, but you know, we don't do nepotism on this show, and he literally, I mean, he could be my son. I adore
bloody
him.
Love Chris Willock.
I adore Chris Willock. You know, that was my shout, wasn't it? Last autumn, best player in the championship.
Can I say, Sam, in the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel WhatsApp group, Paul, a QPR fan, described Chair and Willock as Illy and Willie. Do you like that?
Yeah, I love those two. I mean, they are why you pay to go and watch football when those two boys are at it. Do you know what I mean? Just two lads, in essence, look like they're on the beach having a kick about. They are a thing of beauty when they're purring. And yeah, brilliant goal, Willock. I did enjoy that one. I did enjoy Bakuna's. I think after the little dink on the keeper, I think he miscontrols it. And I know he sends the defender for a pie and it looks great, but I think he's tried to take that. I think it was maybe with the outside of his right foot. So I think there's a little bit of miscontrol in there. So I'm not going to go for Bakuna.
Sam,
couple of others.
Quickly, don't you think Bakuna is the most Championship Premier League player? When he plays well, you're like, that guy is an absolute baller, and he just doesn't do it often enough, does he?
Yeah, I bet he's a nightmare to manage because he's got everything, hasn't he?
So inconsistent.
Yeah, got everything. I liked O'Hare's second, against Birmingham, and Mavadidi's second against Plymouth. Sainz, I don't know if I mentioned that one, is a brilliant goal. Great take. You know, when you talk about a player getting in the pocket, that was it in essence, taking it on his back foot. Brilliant finish. But we're going to go for today, Jed Wallace, back in the team, back off the bench, but back involved and back in the groove with a really important goal. Free kick.
Can I push back a bit, Sam? You don't normally pick a free kick, do you? Why particularly this one?
Kissed the crossbar, didn't it? I think it did. That's it, isn't it? Case closed. Case closed. Gareth Keenan and the jelly. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I'm a massive fan of Jed as well. I think he's a brilliant lad. I think he's a great example to young players in terms of what he does on the pitch, but also what he does off the pitch. And I think he's been missed at West Brom. And I'm not going to call it a malaise. I've pulled that out a few times already tonight. But yeah, they lose 2, didn't they, on the bounce? Yeah, they lost 2 home to Leicester and at Sunderland. So they're a completely different entity when Jed Wallace is in the team. So yeah, I didn't think it was a vintage week. I mean, we had Wesley Hoyt last week.
Missing out.
Yeah, lobbing one in from 40 yards. We had Wesley Hoyt setting up Ipswich's winning goal this week. So it's a funny old game, football.
He looks a player though, Wesley Hoyt. Actually, he's literally, if you look up commanding in the dictionary, you'll see Wesley Hoyt underneath it. Right, let's move on. It's time to lower the tone. Caveats ahoy. It's Sam Parkin's cause for concern. Right, the caveats are coming, and so is the public apology to Fev, who does our quiz, and Anir, who's always in the chat, who are both wonderful friends of the show and Bristol City fans. But it's not been a great start for Liam Manning, who you were a big fan of when he was at MK, Sam.
Yeah, I think they need to take it at the title, and that's it. This is cause for concern. And
Yeah.
do not, don't tell me that not every Bristol City fan, give or take, I don't want to put words in their mouth, are a little bit concerned that they've changed the manager, a very popular manager at that. They've appointed someone who's never managed in the second tier before, and he's won one of his first 6 games. I mean, I'm not saying that this is a disaster, and I'm not saying that people need to start being overly concerned. Sorry to contradict myself, but of course, it's not been a brilliant start. 5 points from 18, and 3 defeats in 4. 1 point at Huddersfield in the last 4 games. It's a bit of a concern, and I think about him at MK Dons, and my thought process on Liam Manning was that it was very possession heavy. It was quite slow, the build up, and I think that's probably been evident. I think the numbers back that up in the first weeks of his tenure. There's going to be more passes. It's going to be less pressing, I would suggest, as well, from the outset, from the front. And this is not maybe the type of terminology that was coming out from the hierarchy or the decision makers at Bristol City when this appointment was made. So there will be question marks. I think of that MK Dons team being quite slow, being quite meticulous in the way they moved the ball around. And they had Scott Twine as well. So they had someone who was just dominating games at that level. He really was. He was going deep. He had the freedom, I think, to really dominate matches and go where he pleased. So they had him when they were flying and got in the playoffs. So I think he was a big reason for the success. I'm not belittling what Liam Manning's done, because Oxford haven't won in the first 4 games under Des Buckingham. So he was doing a very good job. And I don't think it was that style of football I've just described at MK Dons. But it's been a difficult start. The results haven't been good. I think they lack very in simplistic terms. I think when you're halfway through the season, your top goal scorers are midfield players on 4 goals or wide players. I think that's clearly an issue. The away form as well. I think 5 points over the last 8. Only 4 teams are fewer than that, and they've only scored 5 goals. So I think goal scoring is an issue. And I think that Middlesbrough game did surprise us somewhat. But I think if you look at the goals, and yes, it doesn't matter how they go in, I think if you look at the goals in that game and then you look what's gone before and what's gone subsequently, this isn't a team that's taking a lot of chances at the moment. And that would be my biggest concern probably with them moving forward.
Would it be reasonable for a Bristol City fan to look at what happened at Oxford, Sam, where he came in with a right mess on a horrible run, really didn't turn it around for a while. The bad run continued. He managed to just kind of get it moving before the end of the season. But pre-season, and I don't know whether might have even been you that mentioned to me, I think quite well funded the close season at Oxford, but really turned it around. That would be what I would be looking at if I was a Bristol City fan, that given a bit of time, training ground, and a bit of input in terms of some new faces, that there's evidence that it might turn the other way, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're not gonna be pressing the panic button. You have to give him an opportunity to bring in a few players that could be fundamental to what he wants to lay down there and the way he wants to play. Just a couple of other things I picked up. They've won 7 games, and all those victories against teams in the bottom 12. And they've only taken 3 points in the 9 games against teams above them. So Sunderland, 6th, Hull, 10th, Watford, 11th. Sorry, I haven't got a table in front of me, but I do believe they're all above them in the table currently. Yeah, they're the next 3. So, yeah. The wins at home are basically, at the moment, in the last, 8 games or so of each, home and away, they're keeping them, at the moment, from having a flirtation with the bottom of the table. So, listen, I don't think it's going to be a season where we're talking about Bristol City in those terms. Absolutely not. But, they need to improve the away form, and they need to find some consistency under Liam Manners. We'll be talking about them as a cause for concern in the weeks ahead. You've been warned.
We will indeed. And yeah, as Sam says, we don't get much bad feedback, but do take the cause for concern as it's intended. As in, look, if this goes further south than it is now.
Yeah, and we wanted to mention Middlesbrough today, didn't we? Because
we did. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just thought it would be foolish of me to 14 days on after waxing lyrical about their 4-0 win over Preston to see them pick up no points from 3 games, but let's
so
get it
many
right.
Players missing, Sam.
Yeah, and 3 very difficult fixtures, very difficult games. Yeah, I mean the whole one's a bit of a blow, and I don't think they played particularly well in that game. So yeah, they'd be very, very frustrated about that. But the 2 previous games, Ipswich and Leeds at Ellen Road, two of the hardest games you're going to get.
There you go. Right, one more segment on the previous action, and then we're going to go back to the future. But first, as I digest, you don't digest tea, do you? As I swallow some tea, it's time for the meltdown moment. Anyone do anything ridiculous in the Championship this week then, Sam?
Oh, well, we quite like Johnny Rose stirring of the fire pot. That's not a phrase, is it? But you know what I mean. He's it's just funny, isn't it? Some lads are like that, aren't they? Especially now we've got social media for them to play with. But yeah,
poking the bear,
stoking the fire. That's it. Before the derby, I thought was an interesting way to tweet last night. So he's said, "Bring on the derby," basically, or is it "Bring on the effing derby" or something like that?
The most F asterisk.
So I thought that was a mini melt last night.
But by the way, if anyone wants us to talk about Jerry Barton, well, I think Jerry Barton wants us to talk about Jerry Barton. We're not going to. So what's the meltdown moment?
We're going to go for Dan Scar's very peculiar waist high challenge, knee high challenge on Ilias Chair, I believe it was, at a very early stage of their meeting at Loftus Road last night.
So this is a Plymouth side, Sam, that really struggle away from home, and Dan Scar would be considered a senior player and a leader in that team, and they're off to QPR, are in decent nick, aren't they? And it's 25 minutes, you're right. So what's your take on the decision by Scar, given how long there was in the game and Plymouth's propensity to score goals out of their backside if they've got 11 men on the pitch, and the decision from the referee as well?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit harsh. Granted, I've only seen it a few times and only from the one angle, or maybe the 2 angles. I thought it was a little bit harsh. It's high, and it's just a peculiar decision from the player. But I think it was more because of the shape that the game was taking. Plymouth have had 7 attempts to QPR's 4. That doesn't really tell the story. They were by far and away the more coherent team. Loads more polish. QPR didn't turn up in the openings of this game, so I think felt it was
the momentum graph there on the screen agrees with you, Sam, by the look of it.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen that. It was a really poor decision from him, a peculiar decision from him, and it meant that Finn Azaz was sacrificed. So for what's his name? The centre half, who's actually been brought in a few times for Dan Scar, because I think he's got a little bit more.
Plegozelo.
Yeah, I think he's got a little bit more mobility, and he's been preferred to him on occasions for certain fixtures. So, not a massive downgrade, but obviously losing the Zaz and having to hold on for so long against a team that are in really fine form. On reflection, it's a really good point. But for anyone that was at QPR last night of a Argyle persuasion, that was the chance of getting that elusive away win, pretty much vanishing.
It's a weird one, Sam, isn't it? Because Stephen Schumacher, it's not in his nature to go somewhere and not try and win. But there's almost this weird logic of when you do go down to 10 men and you know you're there for a point now and try and get out with a clean sheet. Sometimes that actually can make your mind up on strategy, can't it? An early red card.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it would have been interesting. I've seen it a little bit this season. Obviously, Tottenham being the most obvious one when they tried to play Chelsea with 10 and then 9 with the high line and so on and so forth. But I've seen a few different approaches this season. I've been at a few live games where, you always anticipate a manager just going basically 4-4-1. And that's kind of the way you do it by sacrificing one of the front players. So there are different ways to skin a cat. And Schumacher is a really front foot manager, isn't he? Who loves to be entertained, loves to flair players, loves having an abundance of them in his squad. So it would have been interesting had he gone that way. But obviously it was a rearguard action, and they were able to get over the line.
I love that, Sam. I once asked Gerhard Struber, who used to manage Barnsley, in a press conference, exactly what you just said. Oh, I'm used to 4 and a 4 and a 1 and defend. And he looked at me in absolute disgust. He's like, no, I'm not doing that. We still try and win the game, even with 10. So you love to see it. Right. We are going to be going to the mouthwatering matchup in just a second. Let us know, as if it's not obvious what we're going to choose, let us know which game stands out for you. There is a few choices apart from the obvious one there. Let us know your mouthwatering matchup, which we are going to talk about in the next segment. And your choices are the East Anglian Derby. It is the first time in 4 years. Ipswich versus Norwich at 12:30 on TV. Bristol City versus Sunderland. Sam's already mentioned Bristol City's struggles against teams above them in the table. Hull versus Cardiff. That's a proper outside the playoff shootout. Leeds and their formidable home record take on Coventry. A really interesting one is Millwall versus Huddersfield. That could really set a trend for better or worse for Millwall. They're right next to each other in the table. Rotherham struggling away from home and need some points. You don't want to go to Plymouth, and that's where they're headed. Preston play Watford. Sheffield Wednesday v QPR stands out lovely as well, doesn't it? The two improving teams down the bottom. Southampton versus Blackburn, the Alan Shearer derby. Swansea versus Middlesbrough. As Middlesbrough hope to avoid a 0-point week, as Sam mentioned, in the cause for concern. A few mentions here, as if you ever need any excuse to talk about QPR, Sam, for Wednesday QPR. John said, now John's usually right, actually, the whole bottom six play each other. If that's true, that's tremendous. Saints v Rovers could be quite goaly. Agree with that, Steve. Ipswich v Norwich, maybe we'll get onto that. Owls QPR says Vindaloo. He doesn't think the East Anglian Derby will be competitive. Thank you, Matty. Great point. Not only is there a Monday game I've missed, there's a Sunday game as well. I'm so sorry that I didn't mention the Gary Megson derby between West Brom and Stoke, and Birmingham play Leicester on Monday night. Thank you, Matty, for the heads up in the chat. But Sam, let's reveal after this our mouthwatering matchup. And of course, before you do that, we are very happy above Sam's ear there to be partnered by Match Bingo for the preview segment of this pod. Sam, it's an obvious slam dunk choice wherever you're pointing. We've gone for the East Anglian Derby. Why?
Well, because I played in it unsuccessfully.
How did you get on?
Oh, mate, we lost 1-0 at home. And our brilliant, he was such an entertaining guy, Spanish right back, Cito.
Oh, yeah.
Got dismissed, I think, in the first half. So it was a bit of an Argyle away at QPR job for me that night. I got very few touches. I think I had a couple of chances. We lost 1-0.
Were you the one in the 4-4-1?
Yeah, I think I was. I think maybe Huckabee scored if he was still there. But I do remember going.
then, wasn't he?
I
Yeah.
do remember it was a Sunday, probably an early kickoff, and stupidly went for a few drinks after the game and got told in no uncertain terms how useless I was by a few Ipswich fans in one of the watering holes. So I think I made a swift exit to Colchester or Chelmsford, probably in a car, which we used to do to go and find some peace when we weren't playing particularly well. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. I mean, on the face of it, Ben, it should be a comfortable home victory. You know, I'm not going to go down the cliche Derby, it goes out of the window palaver.
Oh, please do.
No, because it shouldn't be a contest, this. And that's not to say that David Wagner's not a good manager and that Norwich haven't got some really good players. But I just think of the cohesion, the way that Ipswich made 5 changes the other night and it doesn't really disrupt them. The way that they're coached, the consistency of the performances, everything. And I felt that Norwich were maybe just being a bit more pragmatic in the last few games. Couple of back-to-back clean sheets, I think, at Carrow Road and some hard-fought victories away. I think just 1 defeat in 6. So the form is pretty good. And then the other day, a little bit open, that game against Sheffield Wednesday. I know not brilliant calibre of chances. I think they had in the region of 20 shots, Sheffield Wednesday, but an XG quite considerably lower than Norwich, and Ashley Barnes turned down a couple of good opportunities before he got his goal. So the better chances were Norwich's. It was a deserved victory. But yeah, they come into this game where I think they can be got at. And I think the most crucial thing about this game is probably the start of both teams and Norwich trying to keep it 0-0 or better at half-time. If Ipswich get their nose in front in the first half and play like they have been, especially at Portman Road in the opening half, then I think it could be over at half-time. So I think that's the most crucial element to this.
Tell me, as a player, does the emotion get to the players? Because the fans all think it does.
I don't think it will at Ipswich. I mean, they don't seem to be overly emotional in any game. You know, with the most utmost respect, that makes sense. They just seem to have a handle on everything. I think the way he's managing them is incredible. I think David Wagner will be the same. I think there's some good experienced characters in that Norwich squad as well. The likes of Duffy and Barnes. Kenny McLean, I was going to mention anyway. Kenny now playing as a centre-half. Kenny McLean, who I used to think was a bit of a luxury in midfield when I used to play alongside him. Now he's a battle-hardened centre-half who, it amused me, David Wagner was talking about the other day being really competitive in the air. I'm sure Kenny used to duck under every ball on the training ground. But, brilliantly talented player. And that might be, a product of them having injuries in that position, but also Kenny's ability on the ball, take him out of midfield where you've got people coming in from the side and it's, you pressurise at centre half when he can see the whole picture. That might give them a little bit of control in some games. I'm not sure it will do it this weekend, but him against Hurst, for example, Duffy against those two, that's a concern for me. And then one of the most mouth-watering matchups, Rowe on that side against Leif Davis. So Leif Davis obviously will, bomb forward on all occasions, and Rowe may get some joy over there. So that'll be an interesting flank anyway.
Wow. We'll leave it to the predictions. Obviously, I try and be very balanced, but there is the emotional attachment with the rivalry, and there is the elephant in the room that Ipswich have not beaten Norwich since 2009, and they have been apart, not in the same division, for 7 of those 14 years. Is that right? But that's still a 14-game undefeated streak. I think sounds about right, doesn't it? Wow. We'll get on a bit more after we've done player to watch. But Sam, what sort of a bonus would it be for you if £1,000 went into your bank account just before Christmas?
Oh, it would be an absolute dream, wouldn't it?
It would be an absolute dream. And if you're playing match bingo this weekend, Sam, we normally have 125 quid prize pot, don't we? We have 25 quid for the first line, 50 quid for 2 lines. A full house in Ipswich versus Norwich this week is a £1,000 prize over on Match Bingo. I've got my card, Sam, but my light is shining at it. I went very Suffolk there. You can just about see it. Sam, I need a left-footed goal for Ipswich. Nathan Broadhead should cover that.
Chaplin.
Oh, thank you very much. I need a yellow card shown during the 6th minute to anyone other than Sam Morsey, who would then be suspended for the games against Ipswich and Leeds and Leicester. The only issue with my card, I need a right-footed goal for Norwich to get that £1,000. Adam Eder has 4 right-footed goals this season. Not that I want Adam Eder to be scoring, but as Sam said, who doesn't want £1,000 going into their bank just before Christmas? Get involved with our friends over at Match Bingo. £2 for your card. If you want to try it out, you can play the Bingol's game on Saturday at 3 p.m. That is absolutely free. So do get involved in that. And we are going to get involved in Player to Watch. Now, some people say Sam Parkin is a genius. Do you want to know what happens if you are the player to watch? Because Bailey Cadamarteri got himself a lovely pay rise, a new contract, and a goal after Sam Parkin named him the player to watch last week. So this is what happens. Who's getting a pay rise this week, Sammy?
We should have made a note of them because I'm a little bit fearful. Well, we've actually spoken, haven't we, off air when we've been trying to put this together in the last few weeks, and we're almost doubling up because we seem to forget who we've picked out early part of the season. Yeah, I'm going a bit curveball-esque tonight, even more so than Cadamarteri. I'm going to go for Stoke City's Junior Chamadou.
Now, Junior Chamadou, Sam, I think you first brought him up around the table at ITV when he was playing for Colchester, saying, look, this guy will play at a higher level. He's gone up to Stoke and actually play fullback both sides. Talk to me about Chamadou, and very briefly, if you wouldn't mind, Stoke are in need of a manager as well, Sam.
Yeah, well, this was his 3rd start against Swansea. In midweek this season. So for whatever reason, he hasn't been in favour. Alex Neil hasn't fancied him for whatever reason, but they played a slightly different system. And Paul Gallagher, isn't it? I think who's in interim charge. And they played a kind of 3-4-3. Certainly he was positioned right of the 4. So a little bit more advanced than he normally would have been. Colchester, he's a right back coming through. I think he's played right back at Stoke when he's been given a few rare opportunities, but he was impressive. I thought he's a bit erratic. You look at some statistics that are available since the game, and I think he gave the ball up 6 times, which was amongst the highest between the two teams. So he's a little bit erratic with his final ball, but his drive, his application, it's all there. He had 3 shots as well in that game against Swansea as well, which was encouraging, getting into really good positions. And I know that Colchester have produced a lot of good players, and they continue to produce a lot of good players. I think he's right at the top of the list. A former manager of theirs, a friend of mine, and he really liked him. So I think in what was a disappointing night, because the goalkeeper basically chucked one in, didn't he, for Harry Darling to nick a point for Swansea. Some encouragement that someone who hasn't been in the team got himself a rare start and did well. 19 years old as well, and someone that I seem to have been aware of for a number of years now. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. The manager front, I wasn't surprised. Well, we said it, didn't we, on the last podcast? I thought it was almost must win against Sheffield Wednesday, and so it proved.
You were right, yeah.
So, on reflection, he had that brilliant period, didn't he, last year? What was it, between Feb and April, when they were racking up the points, and then they absolutely fell off a cliff at the end of the this season. Weren't scoring goals, weren't winning games. I think that run was still relatively fresh in the memory and the minds of the fans when they attacked this season. And they started so encouragingly after doing all that business in the summer. And it's kind of that high tempo, high pressing football that they were getting under Alex Neil during those heady heights. So, yeah, there's been a huge drop off. And, considering there's been quite a churn in terms of the squad, considering the position they were in and the most recent form, I wasn't surprised that they've made a change. Whether they've recruited, like maybe, I don't know, we were speaking about Bristol City earlier, but whether they've recruited to play that style and that's going to be in keeping with this new manager, we'll have to wait and see. That would seem sensible, wouldn't it? Because they did bring in a lot of players in the summer. So we'll see if it's someone that kind of has that ethos and some of those characteristics in his side that I just described. Seen John Eustace linked with it, Lee Carsley today, Nuno Espirito Santo, Graham Potter. I read an article about. I mean, these are some big names, yeah. And it's just sad for the fans that there's been just so many years of this, so many moments and periods where you think they've cracked it under so many of these managers. Michael O'Neill a couple of times, I thought, oh, they've cracked it.
I've got some inside track for you on that after we've finished recording. So it's interesting you bring that up. But we are going to move it on. Sam, keep your eye out. Junior Chamado, Stoke City fullback. Sharpen your pencils, everybody. It is Sam's favourite part of the show. Going to take me on in the predictions. We want to hear all your predictions for all 12 games in round 22 in the Championship. Coming up, try and keep up with us and make sure you put your teams and your goal scorers in. If you're listening on audio, this is a brilliant reason to come and join us over on the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel each and every Thursday to get involved with the predictions. Right, we normally do a cliffhanger here, Sam, don't we? And don't reveal the scores on the doors from last week until we've done all the predictions. But you're going to reveal them first this week, Sam. How did we go last week?
Yeah, well, we both got 7 points, my friend. You hit Huddersfield v Bristol City on the nose.
Yes.
For your 3 points. And I hit Coventry v Birmingham on the nose, 2-0 for my 3 points. We both got Leeds to win at Blackburn. We both got Leicester to take care of business at home to Argyle. I got your beloved Ipswich to win at Borough. And I also got the Watford Southampton draw correctly. You got Cardiff to beat Millwall as well, was your other one. So anyway, 7 points apiece last week.
What does that make the aggregated total?
19-16 in your favour. 3 points in it.
Entertaining stuff. Right, let's get into this, everybody. Get your shouts in. And I'm not giving Parkin the choice this week. He's most definitely going first because look at that. Ipswich versus Norwich, Sam. Go.
Yeah, normally the professional in me does a little bit of prep here, but I'm going in blind. Oh,
fun.
Could they get through? Could Norwich get through to half time without conceding and make it a tough one? Oh, I don't think they can. I'm going to go Ipswich to race into a lead. I'm going to say Norwich to get a consolation. 2-1. Home win.
I'm going to break the golden rule, Sam, and I'm going to say not treat the world how it actually is, but treat it how I want it to be. And I want this to be as calm and comfortable as possible. I want Ipswich to be 2 goals up as quickly into the game as possible and for there to be no more goals. I realise that is not how we should do this, but give me this one this week. It's the only game I'm emotional about all season. I'm going to go Ipswich 2, Norwich 0, and I'm going to pop up some predictions from the chat. Make sure you put your team names in there, else we won't know what you are predicting. There we go. And I'm going to move on to Bristol City versus Sunderland. And do you know what? I'm going to go with Sam Parkin's stat from earlier that because Sunderland are higher in the table and because Bristol City are our cause for concern, I'm going to back an away win here, Sam. So I will go Bristol City 1, Sunderland 2. What do you think?
I think you're probably right. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'll go for a bigger advantage. I'll go for 3-1 Sunderland.
3-1. I'm just clicking a few up in the chat. Come and get involved. Sorry, you said 3-1, yeah?
I did.
And we're going to move you straight on, Sam, to Hull versus Cardiff. Good win for Hull at Middlesbrough. Not a good night for Cardiff, losing at home to Birmingham.
No. Yeah, difficult to call. Obviously, a good reaction from Hull after the defeat at QPR. I think Cardiff have got goalkeeping issues. If some of the goals that are going in their net is anything to go by, which is probably how you should judge a goalkeeper, I'll go for a 2-0 home win.
I am going to go down the middle, I think. I think Cardiff are stubborn, Sam. So I think they're going to react well to losing at home to Birmingham. Or do I? I think I might change my mind on the hoof here. No, I'll stick with my initial instinct and I'm going to go 1-1. And I'm going to click a load of these up. And, it's me first on Leeds versus Coventry. Well, I'm going to be very predictable with this. I think because it's Coventry, it's going to be low scoring. But because it's Leeds at home, I think Leeds win. So I will go Leeds 2, Coventry 1, Sam.
Yeah, 7 on the bounce they are at Elland Road, aren't they? And I'm really glad that Coventry are finally putting some performances and some results together, because we certainly were on that train, weren't we? Thinking that it was a bit of a false position. So I think they'll be absolutely fine, but I think they'll lose at the weekend, and I will go 3-1 to Leeds United.
And do you want to start us on a really key match, Sam? Millwall versus Huddersfield. This is a biggie.
Yeah, it's a big game. Big game. Huddersfield have been disappointing, and Millwall are finding results hard to come by, although they frustrated Leicester. Is that the right word? I thought they were more defensive, which they needed to be after certainly the first 45 minutes at Portman Road the other day that I witnessed. I thought they were far too open in that game, and I think they learnt their lesson at Leicester and made it a difficult night. Obviously, the first team to score 2 against Leicester, I believe, Ben.
Really?
Millwall, which is an incredible statistic. Yeah,
I did not know that. Great.
I think possibly Liverpool might be the last team, but I'll have to double check that. Still incredible. I'll go for Millwall to win, and I'll go for Millwall to win to 0. 1-0 Millwall.
I was contemplating saying that, Sam. I just wonder whether Huddersfield's sticky draw-in kind of run comes to an end, or will they? I don't see Millwall losing, I don't think. Because you've gone for the Millwall win, I'll go for the draw then. Millwall 1, Huddersfield 1. And I'm going to go for what is probably one of the more obvious ones. Plymouth versus Rotherham. I've got to go for a home win on this one. Rotherham, lovely. And Richardson, we worked with him, didn't we, at EFL last year. Sam, he's waited, and I think it's a decent job. Rotherham, you get time. You might have to bide it in League One, looking at the direction of travel. But Plymouth away is just not something I see Rotherham excelling at here too early in Liam Richardson's reign. So I'll go Plymouth 3, Rotherham 1.
I'll have the 3-0 then, mate. I'll have the 3-0. The appointment has got to be with a view on the potential of falling into League One, hasn't it, here? And also, it's not alarm bells, but I don't think it's ever easy when you're just inheriting a backroom staff. And obviously, this was the stumbling block, it would seem, with Nathan Jones, possibly one or two other managers. So it shows you that Liam Richardson was pretty keen to get back in, despite probably a few obstacles. So I don't think it'll probably be enough to turn things around for them this season. I hoped it would be okay under Matt Taylor, so much so as I think we talked them up as the pick early part of the season. But yeah, they'll lose this weekend, in my opinion, and they'll lose heavy. 3-0 I'll go for.
And do you want to move us straight on to Preston versus Watford? I thought Watford were quite good in midweek, quite unlucky to lose. And a really good win for Preston at Huddersfield.
Yeah, really good win, although I still don't think the performance was great from everything that I've seen and read. So for that reason, I think these, decent performances and optimism amongst supporters will start to yield points for the Hornets. I'm going to go for a 1-2, 2-1 away win for Watford.
I'm going to back Watford as well, Sam. I quite liked what I saw. And obviously, look, they're a year 2 parachute team, some really good technical players in there. And it does seem well coached, even though Big Val is not doing what he was doing at Barnsley that we kind of fell in love with, that crazy football. But yeah, I'll back Watford as well then. You've gone 1-2. I'll go 0-2 and a shutout there. And I'll move on to a very big game this, Sheffield Wednesday versus QPR, where we're going to kind of find out a little bit in terms of who is the better of these two managers. Cifuentes and Danny Roll have both pulled some results out, haven't they? I don't think there's much in it. I wonder if home advantage makes a difference here, Sam. So, as much as you're going to give me daggers, I'm going to back Sheffield Wednesday here, and I'm going to say Sheffield Wednesday 1, QPR 0. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can't put up too much of a strong argument against that. I think there's a lot of sense in that. QPR aren't conceding goals. I think it's 3 consecutive clean sheets for the first time in 126 years or something. That was a gag. I think they're 3 on the bounce. So I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet here, but I'm confident enough in the new manager to say this will be share of the spoils, 1-1.
And you're up first. Southampton versus Blackburn. What is it? Is it 13 unbeaten now for Saints or 12? Or it's a crazy run, isn't it?
13 unbeaten, and I quite liked. I was doing a little bit of digging earlier on Southampton, and they've got them listed as playing the Christmas tree formation at the moment. But I don't think it is, because I looked at
you
a
get
couple
a
of other
mention
things.
for Eltel, the late great Terry Venables there when you mentioned the Christmas tree formation.
It's just nice to see it, basically. Nice to think that it's up on the board, the whiteboard in the manager's office this time of year. It looked like Stuart Douglas was maybe playing kind of just behind the front two. That's how I looked at it anyway, how I had it. But anyway, brilliant run they're on. We wanted to touch on them earlier, didn't we, in the opening segment, and too many draws, I suppose. I think it's 5 draws during this run. So, it's a brilliant unbeaten run. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you go 6-7 games at any level of English football, any football, and you remaining unbeaten. It's incredible. But too many draws is why there's still the gap, and why you're better off getting those maximum points and losing a few. But here, good fun. I think someone said it earlier. You can't not back the goals here, can you? So I'll go for Southampton, odd goal in 5, 3-2.
Love it. Absolutely love it. It's funny you mentioned Southampton liking a draw. Blackburn are doing that thing where they never draw it. I think it's like 18 EFL games without a draw now. So I'm not backing the draw. I want to get ridiculous with this. So the most ridiculous thing I can do is let's end the undefeated run. And I want 7 goals. I want Southampton 3, Blackburn 4. And if that comes in, Sam, do I get a bonus point for that if that one comes in?
Yeah, I'll give you the 4 points.
I'll even put
I'll jot it down there. You can have
7 goal prediction should get a bonus point, shouldn't it? It's me first on Swansea Middlesbrough. Sam, I'm very conflicted on this one. I don't know what's going to happen because Swansea, you've obviously got the caveat of being without manager. Middlesbrough, I'd normally back them in this situation, but because they've had players missing and a bad week, so I think I might come down the middle, Sam, and I'll go Swansea 2, Middlesbrough 2. Throw the Desmond in.
I'll go for Middlesbrough here. just on the basis that Swansea are in limbo, look possibly close to appointing the chap from Tottenham who was at Swansea in the back room, I believe, when Brendan Rodgers was there. His name escapes me, but I think that one might be happening. So they'll get their house in order soon. I'm sure they'll be fine. I just like Michael Carrick, and I think this could be a good game for them if maybe Swansea are kind of in the process of changing and, imprinting a few. Yes, it's interim managers, but there's still going to be different ideas. So I'll go for Middlesbrough. I'll go for Middlesbrough to win 2-0.
Swansea 0, Middlesbrough 2. And you are first up on the Gary Megson Derby on Sunday, Sam, which would be West Brom versus Stoke.
I think I'll go with the same score. I think I'll go for it to be relatively comfortable. West Brom 2, another clean sheet, Stoke 0.
Yeah, we always go for the clean sheet with West Brom, don't we? So let's break from tradition then. We'll go for a Stoke goal. Actually, let's go for a Stoke goal scored by Junior Chamado, our player to watch there. How does that work out? So I'll go West Brom 2, Stoke 1, and just add that in for you. Monday night is me. We love some Monday night football. Probably do that as a watch along if I've still got the energy to do anything, which it doesn't feel like it at the moment, put it that way. But it is Birmingham versus Leicester. Have I got that the right way around? This is important when it comes to this prediction. I suspect Leicester are going to sneak this by 1 goal quite late in the game. So I will go. See, look, JC's gone 1-1 there. I'll go for it to be 1-1 at minute 75, but ultimately it's going to be Birmingham 1, Leicester 2, Sam.
Only lost once at home this season. Wow.
Blues, really?
According to JC Football.
Oh, he'll be right, yeah.
I can't even recall who that was against. But they're going to lose here. Clip that up. Yeah, I don't know if they've got they obviously got a clean sheet at Cardiff, didn't they? But they've got the ability to do it against one of the top sides. What did Ipswich win there? 2-1? They were really good against.
It's 2-2, yeah.
They were very good against Ipswich, weren't they?
Beat Ipswich, yeah.
Very good, yeah. Just blew up a little bit towards the end, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, Lightning could strike twice, but I'll have to hedge my bets. I'll go for 2-1 Leicester.
2-1 Leicester. There we go. Thank you all for getting involved in the chat on that. Always brilliant fun. And remember, if you are watching on the clip that we put out each and every Friday, why not next week come and join us on the Thursday night and have your say live? Either way is fine, but if you are watching on the clip, then stick your predictions in via the comments. Sam, it is time for the week that was. Right, big thank you as ever to Fev at Fev's Football, who provides our devious questions every single week. Sam, you are leading 11-7 in the week that was. Would you like to go first or second this week? Do remember last week, I think Sam should get -5 points for his computer crapping out during the quiz. And Fev had to answer me the questions from the comments. So I'm advocating for a -5 penalty there for Sam. Let me know what you think of that in the comments. But do you want to go first or second, Parkin?
Go on, I'll answer mine first, just in case it happens again. I'm back with a vengeance. I've been on it today. Got 86% on the old lappy.
That is almost like a Kieran McKenna win percentage, that, isn't it? Right, Sam. For both the weekend and midweek games, so which team combined over those 2 games had the fewest shots in total? So it can be off target, on target. So over the past 2 rounds, get your guesses in via the chat. Hopefully put some wrong ones in there to put Sam off. That would help me. And someone's just said it in the chat. Hit the like button. Yeah, well done, Mark, as Sam is having a think. Do you want the fixtures, Sam?
No, I'm fine. I'm just trying to think if anyone had like 2 hellish games but I've got my 2 contenders, so it's one of 2 in my mind. Shall I give you my 2? Don't give anything away. So
I'll cover my face. What are you giving?
it's either Rotherham or Huddersfield. And I'll just stay true to form and go for Huddersfield.
No, it's Rotherham. That's brutal. And I think, did anyone get it in the chat? There you go. Dave got it. Look, Rotherham. I thought it might be Plymouth because they had the 10 men and they played Leicester in the other game. But Plymouth are very
Who
attacking.
did Rotherham played West Brom? Who did they play in the first game?
They played Swansea, but Danny Ayala got sent off early, so didn't know attacking.
You Wally should have got that.
You were right there, weren't you? So, am I guessing my question is who had the most shots?
I'd like to know, can Fevs be doing it right now? What was the difference between Rotherham and Huddersfield? Because I'm sure it wasn't by many.
If he's in the chat, he'll know.
Anyway, your question, mate. For both the weekend and midweek games, which team had the most shots in total in the game that we are calling Who Gives a Shot?
Who gives a shot? He didn't put that in my text. Outstanding. So, is it too obvious that it would be Leicester, who are obviously top of the league and scored 7 goals?
I'll stop you there. It's not Leicester, so I'll even give you that, so you can claw yourself back to 11-8, hopefully.
Okay. In which case, I'm between. That's not going to be Leeds because they had a bad night at Sunderland. We love Blackburn for attacking, don't we? And we love Southampton for some crazy numbers, even though the goals didn't come. Let's go Blackburn.
Well, they wear blue and white, but they're not quarters, my friend. They're the magic cool hoops. QPR, yeah.
No chance.
Well, yeah, beat Hull 2-0, comfortable, and then played against 10 men for 3 days.
Oh, of course they did. Callum has just said in the chat, QPR had 29 shots yesterday, so they did it. They did it all in the one game. So Fev has said 11-13 in terms of the shots. So we get half a point each then. That's a miserable failure and a draw. You probably have the moral high ground that you named Rotherham and then didn't pick them. Although maybe you should get further minus points for that and we'll have a proper stewards inquiry. Sam, have you got 2 minutes to do maybe 1 or 2 questions in the Q&A?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
We'll do 3 questions. There you go. See how I've stitched him up there. Good and proper. We'll do 3 questions in the Q&A. Get your questions in right now for Sam Parkin. So really quickly, just a big thank you for everybody supporting the Championship Check-In podcast. We've only been going since the start of the season, but Sam and I obviously made friends last year and said we wanted to do something. And frankly, we are loving it and we are loving all your input and it's growing very, very nicely. With all of that being said, let's get into the questions really quickly. Wally, Sam, if you weren't a footballer, what other sport would you have liked to play professionally? I'm guessing golf.
Well, that is very much my sport of choice now. But when I was a kid and what I was good at, tennis.
Wow.
Tennis. Yeah. Really keen tennis player. You know, football, obviously, every day, give or take, playground after school. But tennis in the summer, after school, 3-4 hours until it was dark most days. And I was pretty decent. My brother as well. But I wasn't down with the etiquette and the elitism, and it's still something that bothers me a little bit today, to be honest. I used to rock up in my QPR kit and pummel everyone that was in the fresh whites. You know what I mean? Just wasn't.
It's all gone into a bit of class battle here on the Championship Check-In.
No, it just wasn't. Yeah, it would just
not for you.
Not for me, probably. But I still enjoy playing now. My other half's not bad actually, so we like to have a game every now and again.
Excellent. And who would win that?
She gets the odd point. Yeah.
Sounds like Phil in Modern Family playing basketball against his son, who's like half his size, just dunking on him. Let me just click through. George, I think Sam's answered this one before. I think it was Champions League Gary Cahill. Champions League winner Gary Cahill was the hardest defender that Sam faced. I'll flip through a few of these. Why are Championship score predictions so difficult. I think it's just the nature of the league and the 46 game slog and the general ridiculousness. Sam, do you have Yorkshires on your Christmas dinner? That's a hard yes for me.
We might do this year. I'm going to the in-laws, so yeah, my mum wouldn't have been going down that route. Although did I tell the story on? I think I told it on this podcast. I was certainly telling someone the other day. My mum used to do me a little side of pasta because I'd have a game the next day, so I'd have the full turkey, everything trimmings, just like absolutely destroying it like everyone else, and then I'd have a token little bowl of penne or something just to think in my mind that I was doing the right thing by carving up the day before. Tremendous.
Great question, Mark. Points total to stay up. Sam, a few weeks ago we got asked this and we were like, oh, it might not be much over 40. It's probably gone up the last few weeks, hasn't it, with QPR and Sheffield Wednesday starting to push in. So do you think it will now closer to the sort of 45, 46 that it normally would be?
Mate, that's really not my bag, of which you know. So we're talking, 46 games? Yeah, absolutely. Well, QPR aren't going to get 20 points in the second half of the season, are they? They're going to get much more than that. Sheffield Wednesday too. If we're talking about it being a battle between QPR and the teams directly above them in the table, absolutely 45.
Yeah. Charlie, sorry I haven't been able to tune in the last few weeks. Question for Sam. Did you manage to treat yourself to a Parmo when you did Borough versus Preston?
I didn't, but I'd be very interested in having one. And yeah, it's always intrigued me. I lived with a lad who was from Middlesbrough when I played for Northampton. And he educated me on me. He educated me on them a little bit back then. So I've always fancied one. And I've always fancied some of the oat cakes, which I believe are in the potteries. I've always fancied going down that route as well. So one day.
Last one then, George. Prediction for England in the Euros. Does it involve getting quite far in and then being really in a game and losing it by one goal when everyone thinks they should have kind of won it?
I don't know.
Same every time, isn't it?
They're so good. The squad's so good. Final. Glorious defeat in the final. Like a thrilling final. Do you know what I mean? So we've pretty much completed it by then, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? We've lost lost in every manner. Like we'll lose 3-2. Do you know what I mean? Like basically like 1966, but on
the other way around.
Yeah,
right. There you go. Sam, outstanding stuff. We're 1 week before Christmas, so Sam and I will get our heads together and try and figure out where and when and if and how we can fit a show in next week. We would love to if we can. So I'll say we'll see you next week and we'll do some housekeeping. But obviously, family takes over after the small matter of the East Anglian Derby at the weekend. Sam, are you at any games this week?
I am doing 2 Premier League games. Yeah, I'm at Chelsea Saturday, Sheffield United, and I am doing Brentford against Aston Villa for 5 Live Extra. If you want the game on Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. kickoff. So no, I'm looking forward to that. I don't think I've done one before for them, a commentary. So that should be really good fun. Just down the road for me. So perfection.
Fantastic. Enjoy wherever you're watching your football this weekend. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of the Championship Check-In podcast. See you soon, everybody.